Hi, my name is Justin, aka Ghost Reader, and this is my wrap up for the POCathon. The POCathon was from August 12th to August 19th, so yesterday was the last day of the readathon, and I really enjoyed the books that I had to read, and I enjoy seeing what you guys were reading as well. I want to say thank you to my co-host Diana from Diana in Color, Kevin from Storyglyph, and Paolo Macera. I also want to say a very special thanks to Min Kobayashi, who herself was also a host as well, for helping organize this and bring this all together and helping POCathon to be a great success. I wasn't active on YouTube itself because I had a lot of things to do this past week, and I didn't have time to make videos. But I was very active on Twitter, and I was really happy to see all the people who joined in, who used the hashtag POCathon, and really enjoyed seeing your TBRs, what you guys are reading. Found some good things some good things to read in the future from not only people on Twitter, but also the people who made videos for the POCathon saying what they were going to read, and also who commented down in the comment section. So I want to thank you all for joining. It's been enjoyable for me. I hope it was enjoyable for you. And it's been really good for me, because there have been a lot of books on my TBR that I wanted to read, but hadn't gotten to the chance to get a chance to read them. And this gave me a good excuse to get to those books, and also gave me a chance to actually go look for some stuff that I wouldn't have picked up had I not been looking for books for this particular readathon. So what did I read for the POCathon? I read a total of 5 books. I read 2 ebooks, 2 physical books, and 1 audiobook. And so I had a good mix of basically all the 3 types of ways that you can read a book. And so the first book that I want to talk about is the last book in the Binti trilogy, which is Binti the Night Masquerade. This book was written by Nnedi Okorafor, and she is a very good writer. I've read the previous 2 books this year. She has also written other books. The Binti series has been nominated and has won the Best Novella Award. For at least I know Binti has, and I think the second book in the Binti series has as well. She's written other like full-size books, the Kata Warrior, the Kata Witch, or 2 of which there are other ones as well. Her book Who Fears Death, I believe, has been optioned by HBO to turn into a TV show later at some point. I think it may be in production now. And she's also writing for Marvel. She has written in the past. She's written for Black Panther. That was around the time the movie came out. She wrote I think 2 stories in the Black Panther miniseries. She's has written also a series with the Dora Milaje, and she's also working on a series on the Shuri, Black Panther's sister series for Marvel as well. So she's doing quite a lot. And also she was nominated for the alternate Nobel Prize in Literature as well. So she is doing really good work. I'm glad she's getting recognition for her work. So the Binti Night trilogy is because it's 3 books into the series. That's the last in the series. I don't want to give anything away, so it's going to be pretty vague synopsis. But basically, Binti has come home from university, and she's dealing with some changes to her, both physically, mentally, and emotionally. And she also has to, while she's dealing with that, has to deal with a conflict between 2 parties that has now involved her people, the Hemba people. And basically, she has to deal with this and try to bring it to a peaceful resolution. So it was just as good as the other books in the series, which I also liked as well. It was she does a really good job at world building, and a really good job at showing the world and how the world has changed in the future, how nature and technology have kind of blended to create new and innovative things. And it's just a really good, really good taste of what Afrofuturism is. And so it's a really good selection to read if you're ever looking for something to read, they're pretty short. They're about 90 to 100 pages each, and a very good introduction, I would say, to someone who hasn't read Afrofuturism before. My only criticism of this book would be that there was a plot point that was resolved, and it was pretty anticlimactic. Actually, ironically, the character herself actually says, "Oh, that was anticlimactic," and I thought to me, it felt like it was being built up to play a bigger role in the story. However, that was not the case, and so my expectations for what was going to happen definitely did not match where the story was going. But other than that, the book was pretty solid. So I really encourage you all to read the Binti series if you ever get the chance. Second book I'm going to talk about is Freshwater by Kweli Emezi. This is her debut novel. It came out in February of this year, and Sean Mooney actually read this on his channel, and he raved about it. I must have missed that video because I didn't know, and picked this up because I was looking at the Audible deals, and it was available for they had a deal going. It was available for, like, I think $2.99 or $3.99, and I said, oh, this would be perfect for the POCathon, and that's why I picked it up. I didn't even know that Sean Mooney read it and gave it a good review. But my synopsis for this book was actually correct, that it is in fact about a girl who we would say has a mental illness. However, from the point of view, because she brings her own culture into it, her Igbo culture into it, it's not that she has a mental illness, but that instead that she has been filled with spirits or gods, and that is what is the cause of her mental distress. And so it was a really interesting and unique way to view, well, for me, because I've never read a book like it that viewed mental illness like this, in this way, and that these guys have their own personalities, their own wants and own desires, and that is why there's kind of like in a way, it's kind of like it's a conflict between her and the spirits inhabiting her, but at the same time, there's also a sort of partnership. So, like, when she experiences trauma, then one of the spirits would take over for her, and so they have like this interesting, relationship where it's not just all like the spirit in her kind of wants to protect her, but at the same time it's also causing her harm, and kind of doesn't really care that much, but in a way does. So it's kind of like this weird relationship between the two. It was very, like I said, it was very interesting, unique way to view mental illness. It was I wish that as the story went on, you would hear more of Ada's voice. Ada is the main character. You would hear her voice, but you hear for the most of the book, you hear the voice of the spirits or the gods that are in her, which is fine. I think it works well for the first part and the middle part of the book. But as Ada comes to try to deal with her mental illness and becomes more of, I would say, starts to take more control of herself and her life and her decisions, I felt like the author should have incorporated more of Ada's voice into the story. But I would say it was a very good debut novel by her, and I can't wait to see what else she's going to do, like, in the future. So the third book that I read was great short stories by African Americans, and basically this was a collection of short stories of 26 African American authors from the late 1800s all the way up until about the 2000s, and they're in chronological order. They're not really related to each other, maybe in themes, but they're basically from different authors and showcasing their work. Some of the authors in the earlier period, because at the end they have a short biography on each author. Towards the beginning of the book, the authors in the beginning, like in the late 1800s, not much is known about them, except for the short stories. But of course, as you move along, they have greats in there like W.E.B. Du Bois, Langston Hughes, Alice Walker, and Ralph Ellison. And I think the most surprising thing for me in this book was that the stories that grabbed me the most actually weren't written by people like Langston Hughes, Ralph Ellison. Alice Walker and W.E.B. Du Bois did, in fact, grab my attention, but it was actually those lesser-known writers that their short stories really, really grabbed me. And one of them, and I think the best one in the book, was The Bones of Luella Brown by Anne Petrie. And basically, in this short story, there's this black owned funeral home who basically caters to rich white people, and they put them in the all white cemetery. However, in this all white cemetery, one of the owner's father had buried a black woman. Now, at the time he buried the black woman, she was buried like in the corner in the cemetery, but with this. She was buried in the corner of the cemetery, but next to the governors of Massachusetts, that's what the story said, family. However, as the cemetery expanded, where she's buried is now prime real estate. And so to kind of rectify his father's mistake, what he wants to do is he wants to move her because the governor wants to move his family out of that cemetery. So he says, well, I'll just move this black woman out because that way we cut down on costs. We just do it all at the same time. And through a series of events, the bones of her and then one of the governor's relatives get switched around, and they're not sure who's who, and then begin the shenanigans. And this was actually really, really good story. It was funny. It examined, like, once the people are dead and they were just bones, they couldn't tell the difference between who's who, and it was like, well, we can't tell the difference. And one of the criticisms that was actually why they were trying to keep the story kind of quiet was because some people were saying, well, the bones are different, and they would say, well, if you say that's true, that the bones, there is no difference in the bones, then you're saying that black and white people are actually the same. And so it was a really good story. I really enjoyed the story. I actually enjoyed a lot of the other stories, but if I was to talk about all the ones I enjoyed, it'd be a bit too long. That would have to be its own separate video. But that story was just absolutely great, and I had an absolutely great time reading all these stories and finding about some other African American writers that I'd never heard about before. So that is the end of part 1. While I was filming this, I realized that the video will be almost 20 minutes long as one big video, and I know not everyone wants to watch 20-minute long videos, so I'm going to cut it here, and then in my next video I'll pick up with the last 2 books that I read for the POCathon. So what was your favorite read for this readathon? Please tell me in the comment section down below. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos from me, please subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at GhostReads28, and you can also see when I'm reading at Goodreads. You can find a link to that in the description box below. So guys, as always, keep reading.